Hi, my name is Rob Houghton, and welcome to the Single Parent Chef Podcast. This is a podcast for people who are on their own with kids who don't know how to cook. Today what we're going to do is make a simple recipe called Crostini, which is made from Italian bread, and they're a great replacement for those nasty carbs like French fries and potato chips. So, here we go. This is how you make them.
Okay, so we've got our cutting board, and underneath that cutting board we've got a dish towel which keeps the cutting board in place, and we have a serrated knife. That's what the edge of a serrated knife looks like. That's great for cutting bread. It reduces the amount of crumbs and gives it a nice edge. We have a paper plate, and we have the actual loaf of, in this case, semolina bread. Alrighty, so now I use my left hand as a guide for the knife, and I'm cutting slices that are about 3/8 of an inch. That's almost a 1/2 inch in width. Okay, you can make them less than that. Just be careful though, once they get toasted they tend to break easily. And now we put the slices of bread on the paper plate. And now we put the cutting board away. And we put in its place a cookie sheet. Here it is. And it is lined with aluminum foil. That way I don't have to wash it again. Try to cut down on having to do that as much as possible. And we put the slices of bread onto the cookie sheet. Having done so, then we take some olive oil, and I use one of these nice little dispensers which controls the flow of the olive oil, and I put it on each slice, and then I spread the olive oil with a pastry brush. You can also use the back of a spoon if you don't have a pastry brush. You don't have to be that fancy. And then we take some kosher salt. You could use regular salt if you want, and sprinkle it on top of each and every one of those little morsels. And then we also take some cracked black pepper, or freshly cracked. There it is, now it's cracked, on top in addition to that. Now you could also put some garlic powder or other seasonings if you'd like. We go to the oven, which is set at 400 degrees, and we bake them for about 10 minutes. Now I use a convection oven, so I don't have to preheat it, but if you have a regular oven, you'll have to preheat for about 10-15 minutes. And keep an eye on it. Everybody's oven's a little bit differently, but once they look something like this, you see they're a darker golden brown, they are done. And now what we do is we take those and we put them back on the paper plate. Out. These are hot. You should use a spatula. I shouldn't have done it this way. I apologize. If you don't know what a spatula is, it'll be in the show notes. And then, yeah, see, that pan is hot, you silly person. And we're ready to eat them. Here we go. Yum, 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 yum. But if you are so inclined, you could put other things on them. I love blue cheese, and this is a nice soft blue cheese, I believe from Denmark, made with goat's milk. Thank you, goat. No, sheep's milk, I'm sorry. And it's very good. And that's it. We have a tomato, and we need to core it. Now, since we're going to be dicing the tomato, we can remove the core very simply by cutting the tomato in half. Sometimes you have to leave the tomato whole, and there's another process for that. So we make a little V cut at the top, like so. One side of the V, another side of the V, and there we go. 1/2 the coring job is done, ladies and gentlemen. And then we just repeat it on the other side. Then we're going to start the dice. What we do is we cut from front to back horizontally, like so. And every like 1/4 inch or so, or between 1/4 inch and 1/2 of an inch. And then we cut from front to back vertically. Make sure you have a sharp knife when you do this, folks, because otherwise you're going to have mush on your hands. So starting off with a sawing motion kind of helps to get the blade into the skin of the tomato. And then we cut across vertically. And then if there are any little bits at the end that haven't been completely cut, you can finish the job individually. Okay, so that's the tomatoes being diced. Try to make them the cuts as uniform as possible. Now we're going to crush some garlic, for this is good for venting any kind of anxiety you might have during the day. We get the little nib off the top, then we place the blade flat across and tap a little bit, tap a little harder, and then when you've got it nice and flat, we make it even more flat. Bah! And here we go. Ah! There we go. Take that! Now we're going to cut it up into little pieces. So you use a rocking motion with the tip of the blade on the board, and you just move the handle up and down, hitting it from varying angles. Now, if you're not comfortable with this, you can always use a garlic press. When removing the stuff off the blade, make sure not to cut your fingers, by the way, because then you get blood in the food and you can't serve it. And then it hurts too, trust me. Alright, so now we're going to add some salt. This is kosher salt, the salt that I use almost exclusively. And then we have some ground pepper. And then what we do is we put a little olive oil on top, about 2 to 3 tablespoons. I am not measuring, I'm eyeballing it. And then some nice red wine vinegar. Doesn't have to be super expensive, as you can tell. About a tablespoon. That adds some wonderful flavor. It makes a great juice that you can use to put on top of the crostini. And then we stir it all together so that they get to say hi. Okay, now we're going to turn the board over, and we're going to grate some cheese. Now I have a soft Parmesan cheese, so I'm going to use the larger teeth on the grater. If you had a harder cheese, you could use the smaller teeth and make a finer grain. And you grate about, I'd say, between a third or half of a cup. And then we clean the scraper from before, because remember we have garlic and tomato on there. And we put it in a little bowl, and we get ready to put everything together. So here we go. We have our crostini from before. We have the cheese and the tomatoes. This is simple, but boy is it good. You take the tomatoes, you see all that juice that's come out since we put the salts and the liquids on. And then we take a little bit of the cheesy. Oh, that's right, I forgot. I put the juice on. That's so good. That softens up the bread a little bit and just adds so much more flavor. And besides, it's there, you might as well use it. And then put some cheese on, a little more black pepper.
Okay, so that was a very simple topping to make for the crostini. Here they are. They're very, very tasty. In fact, let's give one a try, shall we? Here we go. Oh yeah. Okay. So, wow. Just make sure you let that garlic mellow, because if you serve that right away, you're going to get hit in the face with garlic, and you won't be able to kiss anybody for months. So, that's crostini. That's a very simple tomato topping. There are many others. Go to singleparentchef.com and go to the show notes for this episode, and you'll see other recipes for other toppings for the crostini. And just, you know what you do is you get a loaf of that bread, cut it up, make the crostini, and just leave them in a plastic bag waiting for you at home, so that when it's time to make a meal and you don't have time to make some other kind of carbohydrate like potatoes or rice, you can reach for those instead of the French fries or the potato chips, and it'll be much more healthy, it'll taste better, and you'll be better for it. So come back next time when we learn how to make something else, and you'll become an even better single-parent chef.